Hi, my name is William Bridges. I'll be presenting the paper that Paul Cazares and I worked on this past year, titled Making Sure Initiating Events and Independent Protection Layers Are Included in Your Integrated Management System. For those of you who don't know me, I work at Process Improvement Institute, chemical engineer, bachelor's and master's. I have over 40 years experience. I'm the primary author of the guidelines for independent protection layers and initiating events in 2015. And I'm one of the two co-authors of the book, Layer Protection Analysis, LOPA, from 2001, along with Art Dow. First, let's recap the independent protection layer rules. An independent protection layer must be independent. It must be independent of the causes, independent of other IPLs. It must be capable. Capable means typically enough, fast enough, strong enough, tall enough, tight enough, quick enough, whatever that is. And then it must be maintained. This means it must have some program to keep the target initiating event frequency, if it's an initiating event, or the target probability of failing on demand, if it's a independent protection layer, that must be maintained in order to give that. So these last couple of rules apply to both initiating events and to IPLs. And then finally, the IPL or initiating event must be proven, and then the system must be audited. So proven means we're looking at the data we're getting from our maintenance of the IPL or initiating event, and we're making sure that we get the initiating event frequency or the probability of failing on demand that we targeted. And then we're auditing the system that's doing all of that as well to make sure that these factors are not going to slip over time. Just a little sidestep on the initiating event, on the independent protection layer boundary, especially for high reliability, high integrity systems such as safety instrumented systems and relief valves. In the safety instrumented system standard, they draw the boundary as shown on this chart, which only includes the components that are actively part of the initiating of the safety instrumented function. Whereas from an IPL perspective, this is the boundary we use. It's any part of that independent protection layer subsystem that could impair the probability of failing on demand of that system. To help us manage our initiating events and IPLs, and we first have to identify what those are. We'll talk about that. It's mainly from our PHAs. Then we need to extract these elements, these initiating events and IPLs, and list them and make sure that in step number 3, they really are being included in our inspection test preventive maintenance, if they're mechanical or electrical or instrument, or that they're being included in operations as far as procedures, training, drills, if it's a human response or human initiating event. Finally, the last step is to do the proof testing and auditing to make sure that these are going to stay that way. We'll focus most of our time on number 2 and 3 in this presentation. But to identify initiating events and IPLs, there's another paper we have on our website that you can download that covers this. But the PHA team leader must be fully understanding of what's initiating events and what are IPLs. And that team leader must be competent in how these are maintained and what kind of factors are we expecting, so that he or she can help direct the team members in making good value judgments of what is the initiating event, what is the IPLs, and what type of risk reduction can we expect. There's many users of the PHA report, and they're all wanting this type of data from us. So the engineering department, maintenance, reliability departments, operations, they all want to know what is the initiating events, what is causing the accidents to start, and how do we keep those causes at a low frequency, but also what is our independent protection layers and how do we maintain those and test those and do drills on those to make sure that we're getting the values we expect from those as well. And the PHA reports typically contain this if you document them right. So here's an example of a well-documented PHA report where it shows causes, consequences, safeguards, and recommendations. But in the cause column, we could have causes listed that are not the initiating event. And in this record here, we've identified which of the causes is the initiating event, what type of initiating event it is, and what's the initiating event frequency that we expect. Similarly, for the safeguard column, we've identified which of the safeguard items listed is independent protection layer, an IPL, what type, and what probability of failing on demand can we expect. If we went on and did a LOPA of certain scenarios, which we would only recommend doing it if the PHA team, doing LOPA if the PHA team is confused on a scenario. But when you fill out a LOPA scenario sheet like the one shown here, modeled after the textbook example, these LOPA worksheets clearly identify what is the initiating event and what is the IPLs. And so we can extract, again, that information from these records fairly easily. To extract initiating events and IPLs, it can either be a hard task or a very hard task. And what I mean by hard and very hard is it can take some time, but once you've done it once, you've really done it. So you can either do it inherently from the software, such as ABS Software Leader allows you to directly export your list of initiating events and your list of IPLs that are identified in your PHA and LOPA records. Other software may not let you do that, but either way, you can get your record into an Excel or Word file, identify, tag the initiating events and the IPLs, and then extract them from those files. It's just more work. Once you get these extracted, you'll want to associate every initiating event and every IPL with the source document, PHA or LOPA, and what deviation it came from, or what scenario it came from. You want to also associate them with the PNID they are related to, the operating procedures they're related to. Of course, you'll want to show the tag numbers or the step numbers or whatever is more detailed association of this particular initiating event or IPL. Then you'll want to make sure that you are maintaining these features correctly in order to give the failure rates that we want. So that means you're going to make sure that they're in the inspection test preventive maintenance database if it's a component, and make sure it has the right task and right frequency that we hope will give us repeatedly the right or better probability of failing on demand or initiating event frequency. And if it's a human response or human initiating event, we'll want to make sure that there's operating procedures and training and drills in order to give us the reliability factor we want from the human. So a lot of people miss the initiating event frequencies, the initiating events, as critical features of their process, but these really are safety critical features, safety critical actions, as well as the IPLs are. So don't neglect your initiating events and maintaining those in order to maintain your risk. There is advice on both initiating events and IPLs. A good summary of this is contained in the guidelines for initiating events and IPLs from 2015 that I mentioned earlier. And there's summary tables for both initiating events and for IPLs. And these contain not just the listing of what it is and what reliability factor can you expect, but it also contains protocols that if you follow them, then based on a consensus of your peers, we would expect that you would find the same reliability factors that we have. But you can also keep your own data, have your own protocols for installation, design, maintenance, proof testing, and as long as you can achieve and validate that you have achieved the right initiating event frequencies and the right probability of failing on demand, that's what's necessary to do. So that proof testing I just mentioned and auditing protocols would follow that. This is to make sure that we're getting out of the system what we want, not just the listing and that we're doing a lot of activities, but that they're actually giving us the risk reduction that we want. So the way we recommend doing that is first, do some checks, some audits to make sure that your initiating events and IPLs are truly being captured into your reliability control systems. So the way we do that, one way we do that is to extract a dozen or 2 dozen initiating events, and the same for IPLs from a PHA record. And then we'll check to make sure that these are truly listed as safety critical equipment or loops or safety critical actions in whatever system that we're maintaining that initiating event or that IPL in. And then we'll make sure that the site is performing the inspection test preventive maintenance or the drills if it's a human action to make sure that these components or actions are truly being tested. And then we'll look at the failure rates that's being achieved. And the company should have a record of these over time. and we'll make sure that the probability of failing on demand or the initiating event frequencies are in the right range according to what we're using in the risk assessments, the PHA and the LOPA. This is an example of such an audit worksheet where we list which PHA are we extracting from, the initiating events are listed according to which node and deviation they're coming from, and so are the IPLs. Then we just tag them whether they're mechanical or human, and then we go look in either the inspection, test, preventive maintenance records databases, tracking, proof testing, or we look in operations for the procedures, troubleshooting guide, and record of drills that they're doing. And this will give us the answers of how well are they being maintained and what also are the expected reliability factors we're getting from those features. So in closing, doing risk assessments, PHAs, LOPAs, it's important, and doing mechanical integrity, reliability is very important, and doing human response and human cause drills according to procedures and keeping the records, all that's very important, but it's going to be worthless unless we truly achieve the risk reduction factors that we targeted. So we need to make sure that these are being achieved by looking at these records, making sure we haven't missed any initiating event or any IPLs, and finally auditing the system to make sure that these values are going to stay in place over the long term. Thank you for your time. I'll be available for questions.